sir, and then, okay, the next order, you at the back, and you here, okay, sir, third row there.
Chairman, first of all, I'd like to thank Oliver for spearheading this. I was looking at another website called the New Political Party, I think it was, and they recommended that we go to Oliver. But I've been an electorate since 1950, I suppose, and a vote. I've been watching and bitching about all these politicians, especially I think in the last few years when we had Ray Burke, Neil Lawler, Kennedy and Carrickmines, four politicians, and nothing being done to counteract all that kind of thing. Now we have the opportunity to have a voice, to be able to speak out on behalf of ourselves, on behalf of others, like-minded people, to deal with this corruption. And this is the opportunity that we have, and I think we should take it and support the convention as far as we can. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. You at the back. Sir, yes, you.
Hi.
You're about fifth. Yeah, no, you're okay. Oh, the guy behind you.
Glenn Cal is my name. I have no affiliation. Thanks, Oliver, for setting this up. It's something that some friends and I have discussed independently. We've been sat in the backside of some pub talking about it and did something about it, so well done on that. I have a business background, and I'm just interested in your approach here. It's the point I wanted to make about the structure of how you set this out. You did touch on a business type approach, your SWOT analysis and so forth. I'm relatively new to this. I contributed a little bit. I've written my sonograms to the Irish Times and so forth, but it's not abundantly clear to me what the objectives are, and so that's something I'd like to come back to in a moment. The idea of a national convention or citizens' assembly, etc., is a good one, but I don't know if it passes your own test of being radical enough to be meaningful, from your exact words. But to my mind, while we don't want to get into the issues side of it, I do think that we will end up having radical change foisted upon us by circumstances down the road if we don't act now to implement some kind of reform. And you can guess around, IMF and all that kind of stuff, which we don't want to get into. So I think that, to my mind, the objectives should be more specific and probably a little bit more radical, such as, for example, a new constitution. And that somebody touched on earlier on about that national convention, how would it get teeth or, I suppose, executive power? And that's a key thing. I mean, otherwise it would be a talking shop. So somehow there has to be a mechanism to give that convention or assembly a mandate. So just to come back to my main point then is, in terms of this discussion here, to avoid it becoming a talking shop, and even I think we had our first split there a minute ago, which was nice, so we should note that one for the cameras. But I think we should have, sort of a clear set of objectives that pass your own radical test, and then talk about the means to achieve them, and then go out and execute on it. My own personal bias is towards a business plan type approach. Obviously there are many others, but I'd like us to be really specific about what we're trying to achieve. For me, a national convention in and of itself isn't enough, and you could easily see that one going down a cul-de-sac pretty quickly. I mean, there's been other similar attempts at it that well-intentioned and with lots of money and power and time behind them, but I'm not sure what they've yielded down in the end. The convention centre up in Fermley. So to make a point then, objectives, I'd just like some focus on that, please.
So my name is Eric Conroy, lapsed member of the Green Party, and very happy with what's happened in recent years. I'd like to echo the thoughts of the previous lady speaker who spoke fantastically about the environment. I think it's great that you've organised this meeting and about trying to sort out the way we run our country. But do we have to ask ourselves what sort of it's not just a matter of organising the rules, but what sort of rules would they lead to in terms of what country do you want to see, what sort of environment, what sort of vision for society, or is that sort of a separate issue for the current political parties? I'm very conscious of climate change. It won't go away. No, it's cold out there. But that's weather. The temperatures are getting really hot around the world. Cancun has been forgotten about. Resource depletion. I'm a former member of the Green Party. I'm very disappointed with what they've done. So I really would feel that nice to have some sort of vision as to where this is leading to. But certainly it's fantastic in terms of trying to correct all the problems in society, and also the corruption that was mentioned by a previous speaker as well, the Liam Lawlers, going back to Charlie Haughey's time to have some integrity in politics. I've seen Bertie Ahern in the tribunals, and it was appalling what he said he was doing in terms of all his bank accounts. We still elected him, you know. I've been to the tool cells. It's even worse when corruption is known in society, and that's the way it is in Irish. We elect people who we know are corrupt. That has to change.
Yeah, James Leahy, not a member of any party. Just to, I suppose, to follow on the issue of growth, and I could understand how we might want to get into issues too quickly or into policy, but I think the issue of growth and the IMF and the banks is crucial, because if you pick up the Irish Times any day and just circle the number of times you see the words growth and the number of times you see the words economy, and think how often that word economy should actually refer to society, you'd realise that that growth, consumption is kind of the founding vision for our society at the moment, and unless we address that, we're not going to actually achieve change, because the system at the moment as it's set up is unstable, that if you try and move away from that model at all, as we're seeing at the moment, it starts to collapse. So we're not going to be able to form change from within the structure at the moment, the EU structure as it's set up, and the Oireachtas. Once you kind of realise that, then you have to address the banking and the debt issue. Because the issue there is that there's so much debt has been created that unless you have a growing economy, you cannot actually pay that debt off. And over the next 10 years, there's no chance that we're going to have the growth that these reports predict, because of the scarcity of oil. What that then leads you to is this farce in the Dáil, where you Fine Gael, Labour, Fianna Fáil, arguing about details when the country is actually bankrupt, and when we have this debt that we cannot pay off. And that is crucial, because unless you address that issue and come up with a vision that isn't based on growth, that isn't based on that your personal worth in society is based on what you consume, and it isn't based on that the worth of the whole society is on ever-growing consumption, then you're not going to be able, the structures you put in place, or the structures that you lobby for, are just going to be theoretical structures. So, thank you.
Back there.
Thanks very much. Noel Wardick is my name. Just a couple of things. I think I'd echo the comments of a colleague here in front of me in relation to getting a handle on very specific objectives of the Second Republic. Was one of the reasons I wanted to come on today was I'm still a bit, it seems a bit vague to me as to exactly what we hope to achieve, or what we mean by National Assembly or National Convention or Citizens Assembly, and what we would hope to come from that. And I sort of always in my mind think about, could we, one of us, yourself Oliver or Chris, whatever, sit on prime time in front of Miriam O'Callaghan and, you know, answer her questions, like a rigorous questioning by someone like her caliber. What do you want, what do you hope to achieve, why are you doing it, what's the mandate, etc., etc. And I think we do need to get to that stage, and I know today is part of that. We need to be able to stand over what we say and not get, because if we do end up, yourself Oliver or whoever, doing public interviews or Irish Times interviews, you know, if we're not clear, you'll be destroyed and it'll be over. It'll be like, you know, bursting the balloon, puff, that'll be the end of it. We will look like sort of a weak, disorganised group. That is important, and it's difficult given the sort of broad parameters that we're also trying to look at. The other thing, I mean, some people have mentioned about Fine Gael and Labour have put forward, you know, fairly strong proposals, it seems, for political reform and that. So the fear would be as well, about the fear that we'll be sort of diluted, because again, we're like, well, the political establishment is already addressing that issue, so why do we need the Second Republic as a grouping or a mass movement to also address it? It's been looked after by our politicians, so we need to be able to counter what added value we bring to the table. The other thing is how do we get traction on this? Traction and sustainability. One is how do we get, it's great to see the turnout here today, very, very encouraging, and I think as you said, there is a huge desire out there and frustration among the people, but still this group here, in the scheme of things, is very small, and you know, there's meetings around the country and all that, fantastic. So we need to look at how do we get traction come the election, there's going to be a massive majority, Fine Gael and Labour going into government, that's without a shadow of a doubt. They're going to have a massive majority. And really, picketing outside our constituency clinics over the next 5 years won't make a difference, in my view, because they'll be under very little pressure as a collective to honour pledges and honour things of that nature. So we need to be careful that, again, we don't run out of momentum before we get started. So I'm a firm believer in going to where the power is and sitting with the power, at the power, niggling at the power, and you put up there no influence. In Altacrett we don't have any influence, and one possibility is candidates in the Dáil. Other people might be totally opposed to that feel where we're just jumping into bed with the establishment, but I think that's the establishment understands their own power and their own base of the power, and in the Dáil is where you can have a lot of influence, unless you can be assured of a mass movement